Students, in yesterday's lecture, we studied how picture raster is going to be generated on the television screen by using the scanning technique. Especially, we have studied the rectilinear scanning technique along with the meaning of synchronization. Why synchronization is necessary between transmitter and that of receiver? Friends, the answer for that is to produce the exact replica of the coordinates which are scanned in the camera on the television screen. The synchronization is necessary, and that's why sync pulses and blanking pulses are introduced in the electrical signal proportional to that of the scene or event produced at the camera end, and then those are separated at the receiving end and applied to the respective horizontal and vertical deflection system. So that produces the synchronization. We also studied the rectilinear scanning, and in the rectilinear scanning, we studied that when the electron beam containing the picture information is allowed to be incident on that of the television screen, which is coated by means of a fluoroluminescence material, a bright spot is going to be generated, and that bright spot is scanned to produce the picture raster. The scanning takes place in two ways. One is a horizontal scanning and second one is vertical scanning. Horizontal and vertical scanning will be initiated at the same time from the top of the left of the television screen. The spot moves from left to right, known as a trace period, that contains the picture information, whereas when the spot reaches to the right of the television screen, it quickly returns to the left. It is known as a retrace period or flyback period. During this particular period, it doesn't contain any signal, so that's why the screen should be blank. And here, at the end of every horizontal trace period or at the beginning of every horizontal retrace period, one should apply the sync pulses and blanking pulses. Friends, by this particular way, 625 horizontal lines are scanned from left of top of the screen to the right of the bottom of the screen, where one vertical scan is going to be completed. During this particular one vertical scan for horizontal deflection system, the sawtooth waves, the current slowly increases during the trace period, whereas during the horizontal trace period, it suddenly falls back. And this happens 625 times to scan the 625 lines. Similarly, during these 625 lines, horizontal lines to be scanned, only one vertical trace and retrace is produced. Such around about 25 pictures, vertical frames are generated within 1 second to produce the illusion of the picture information. Priorly, 24 frames are scanned in 1 second, but nowadays 25 vertical frames are scanned in 1 second to give the illusion of the picture. But as far as cinema theaters are being considered, 50 frames are going to be scanned in 1 second. Friends, we also studied the horizontal resolution, vertical resolution, horizontal scanning frequency, that is 15,625 Hz. We have studied the time period of horizontal trace and retrace, that is 64 microsecond. Horizontal trace period is of 52 microsecond. Horizontal retrace period is of 12 microsecond. As far as bandwidth is being considered, it is a maximum 5 megahertz. So all those standards we have covered in the last period. But friends, nowadays the scanning technique used in television is interlaced scanning system. Interlaced scanning is same as that of the rectilinear scanning. Only with the difference that one vertical frame is to be divided into two fields. As we already studied, 625 lines are scanned in a one vertical frame. Out of that, 40 lines are used for the vertical retrace period. Only 585 active lines are going to be utilized to produce the illusion of the picture. Out of that, 273 black and white lines are going to be get scanned. So, out of 625 lines, 312 and a half lines are scanned in one field and remaining 312 and a half lines are scanned in the other field. Then both the fields are going to be interlaced with each other. That means in interlaced scanning, one vertical frame is divided into two fields, each field containing 312 and half lines. And then both the fields are joined together, interlaced together. This is to be utilized only for the reason that we are aware that every time at the end of every horizontal trace period or at the beginning of every horizontal retrace period, the screen should be blank. And also at the end of every vertical trace period or at the beginning of every vertical retrace period, again screen will be blank. Alternately, turning on and blanking of the screen will generate the flickering of the picture tube. To consider that particular picture tube and to adjust the number of frames to be scanned in 1 second, to keep the same bandwidth, to keep the same frequency of the scanning and increase the number of frames to be scanned in given interval of time, the interlaced scanning is used. Friends, when one vertical frame is divided into the two fields, naturally, the rate of scanning the picture in 1 second increases. Instead of 25, it becomes 50. When flickering rate is to be reduced and 50 picture frames per second is minimum requirement in television scanning, due to this horizontal line scanning frequency will become 31,250 Hz. In last period we studied that when 25 picture frames are scanned in 1 second, horizontal frequency will be 16,625 Hz. Now, requirement of television picture formation aspect will 50 picture frames are to be scanned in 1 second. Instead of 25, if 50 pictures are to be scanned, then 50 multiplied by 625, that horizontal scanning frequency becomes 31,250 Hz. This will reduces the time period to 32 microseconds. Actually, for 16,625 Hz horizontal frequency, the time period comes to be 64 microseconds, which I already studied in the last period. But to meet the requirement of television scanning, to reduce the rate of flickering and to avoid the damage of picture tube, and also to scan the 50 picture frames per second, which will increases the horizontal scanning frequency to 31,250 Hz, which is double that of previous one. This will reduces the line period, which is half of the actual it is existing, that is to 32 microsecond. All these aspects increases the bandwidth from 5 megahertz to 10 megahertz. So all these aspects are avoided by to keep the same rate. Interlaced scanning is adopted. A method to reduce the bandwidth with vertical picture scan rate 50 Hz is interlaced scanning. In this scanning, picture is divided into the two fields, each containing half of the interlaced scanning lines, and fields are scanned in a 2:1 ratio. That is, one picture frame is divided into the two fields. So the ratio becomes 2:1. That is, 625 lines are divided into 312.5 lines each. Means one vertical frame is divided into two fields. Each field contains 312.5 lines. When two fields are scanned, then one vertical frame is going to get generated. One vertical scan is going to be gets completed. In one field, odd number of 312.5 lines are scanned, in which the first line starts similar to that of top of the left of the screen, goes to the right, return to the left, and at the 312.5 lines, the beam or spot reaches to the center of the bottom of the screen. After that, vertical retrace period begins. The spot moves from center of the bottom of the screen to the center of the top of the screen, within which 20 lines are going to be vested. The even field begins from center of top of the screen and ends at right of the bottom of the screen with 625 line. After that, again vertical retrace begins from right of the bottom of the screen to the left of the top of the screen, within which again 20 lines are going to be vested. Both these even field and odd fields are going to be interlaced with each other. Friends, try to remember, in first field, all odd number of lines are scanned. That means first, third, fifth, seventh, like that 312.5 lines. In the next field, only even number of lines are scanned. That is 2, 4, 6 up to 625 lines. So like this, one vertical frame is divided into the two fields. Each field 312.5 lines are scanned, out of which 20 lines are vested in every field during the vertical retrace period, so as to maintain the scanning rate same as that it is used in rectilinear scanning. To interlace each other, field sync pulses of equally spaced is applied at the end of each field. Means to interlace two fields with each other, at the end of every field, sync pulses are introduced. One set of pulse at the center of the last line in odd field, and other at the end of the last line of the even field. The flyback time must be same following each odd and even field and should repeat exactly. Thus, interlacing is done with the vertical scan at 50 Hz, so that each field is scanned with 25 Hz to make up a complete picture. That is, 312.5 lines are scanned in 1/50 second and 625 lines are scanned in 1 upon 25 seconds to keep 5 megahertz bandwidth as it is. So that is, interlacing is done with vertical scan at 50 Hz so that each field is scanned at 25 Hz rate to make up a complete picture. That is, 312 and a half lines are scanned in 150 seconds and 625 lines are scanned in 1 upon 25 seconds to keep 5 megahertz bandwidth. So this is what we can call it as interlaced scanning. Same is represented here. Look at here. In this particular frame, only odd number of lines are represented. Odd field begins from the left of the top of the screen. First vertical trace is produced, then it goes to the right. First retrace is going to be generated. Like that, the spot comes to the center of the bottom of the screen. This is 312 and half lines. Friends, try to remember, here only odd number of lines are scanned, 1, 3, 5, 7, like that, and last line is 312 and half lines. This is odd field to which we can say, where 312 and half lines are scanned. Once the completion of odd field, retrace begins and the beam starts moving from center of the bottom of the screen and reaches to the center of the top of the screen. Here, one field completes. At the end of one field, that is odd 312 and half lines, or at the beginning of odd field retrace, sync pulses and blanking pulses are introduced to keep the screen blank during the vertical retrace period. After that, even field begins. Even field starts scanning from center of the top of the screen to the right of the screen, like this, from this to here, center to the right. Retrace begins, again trace, retrace. So in this case, only 2, 4, 6, 8, those even number of lines are scanned. And finally, the spot reaches to the right of the bottom of the screen. After that, again here, vertical sync pulses are introduced and vertical retrace begins. Then spot moves again to the left of the top of the screen. During every vertical retrace period, during this period and this period, 20 lines are going to be vested in each field. So totally again 40 lines are going to be vested, during which the screen is going to be remaining blank. So this is called as the first field, where 312 and half lines are scanned. This is the second field, even field, where 312 and half lines are scanned. Totally 625 lines are scanned. Once this entire process completes, one picture frame is going to be gets formulated. So that is the difference between the rectilinear scanning and that of the interlaced scanning. Friends, by this particular way, by keeping same bandwidth, by increasing the rate of scanning, by keeping same horizontal scanning frequency, by keeping same time periods, timing standards, better picture is going to be generated by using the technique known as interlaced scanning, by means upon which a picture raster is going to be generated that is going to give you the illusion of the picture on the television screen. Friends, this is what we have to remember regarding the rectilinear scanning and also the meaning of the interlaced scanning. Friends, little bit proceed further to understand just the meaning of composite video signal. Friends, as already we have studied that at the end of every horizontal trace period or at the beginning of every horizontal retrace period, also at the end of every vertical trace period and at the beginning of every vertical retrace period, the screen should be blanked by applying sync pulses and blanking pulses at that particular position, which are introduced in the camera tube along with the electrical signal proportional to that of the scene or event, so as to scan same coordinates on the television screen which are scanned in the camera tube. The combination of synchronization pulses, blanking pulses along with the video signal which is created in the camera at the transmitting end is known as composite video signal. Thus we can say composite video signal is composed of electrical signal corresponds to the picture information in the lines scanned in the television camera and sync pulses in it. When we have studied the concept of television communication at the transmitting end, if you look to the block diagram, there is one block known as scanning lines and sync pulses which are added to the television camera. The combination of those sync pulses and the electrical signal proportional to the picture information. Combinedly, it is known as composite video signal. For every television transmission center, the picture quality is monitored by using only composite video signal. Because these sync pulses and blanking pulses have some standards. Those standards are monitored at every television transmission center by observing the waveforms on the scope in the television transmitter. One can decide the quality of the picture, which will make operator to keep the proper quality of the picture to be transmitted. So that's why composite signal is monitored at every transmitter with the scope for distortion in the waveforms. If any distortion present in the standard timing, those are to be corrected. If waveforms are matching with the standard aspects, then that is to be transmitted by supposing that the picture quality is better. So that's why the quality of the picture is decided by observing the standards of the composite video signal, but not observing the picture on the television in every transmitting center. Friends, the video signal carrying the picture information contains three parts. What are three parts? One is video signal corresponds to picture information in the lines scanned. Means camera snaps the scene event and converts it into optical image into its electrical signal. This is the first part of the composite video signal, to which we can call it as it is the video electrical signal corresponds to the picture information. Second one is to synchronize television transmission and reception. Sync pulses to synchronize horizontal and vertical scanning at the transmitter and receiver, which are added in camera tube only. And lastly, the blanking pulse to make a retrace invisible, because during the retrace period no picture information is present. So that's why screen must be blanked, and to keep screen blank in horizontal retrace period as well as in the vertical retrace period, the blanking pulses are also introduced. All these three parts combinedly known as the composite video signal. Thus we can say composite video signal is a combination of video signal corresponds to picture information, sync pulses to synchronize horizontal and vertical scanning in transmitter and receiver, and also the blanking pulses to keep the screen blank during the retrace period. Sync pulses are needed at the end of horizontal and vertical scan when flyback retrace is desired, during the forward as well as downward scan. Where the picture label changes between black and white. Downward means vertical scan and horizontal means left to right. At that time sync pulses are going to be introduced. After each line is scanned by a forward motion, means from left to right, return moment to left is very quick and it is prevented from the producing the trace by using the blanking pulse. Similarly, after vertical scan also, vertical retrace is blanked. All this means that synchronizing pulses and blanking pulses are applied at the end of every horizontal trace period or at the beginning of horizontal retrace period. And also these are introduced at the end of every vertical trace period or at the beginning of every vertical retrace period. Thus, the combination of all these, that is video signal corresponds to picture information, sync pulses to synchronize in the horizontal scanning at the transmitter and receiver, and the blanking pulses to keep the screen blank during the retrace period, combinedly known as composite video signal. This signal is generated in the transmitter, and in the receiver all these signals are bifurcated and applied to the respective deflection system and also to the picture too. So this is what one can understand the meaning of the composite video signal. Friends, during the next period we are going to study the standards of composite video signal, that is horizontal blanking standards and also the vertical blanking standards associated with the composite video signal. Friends, that's all about the interlaced scanning and also just the meaning of composite video signal.